Excellent. So this topic's been like a year in the making. We are talking about the greatest athlete of all time, the GOAT, or if you only know one or two, your favorite athlete, whichever, and why you like them and what makes them great. So actually, since Justin always has a structured answer, Justin, why don't you take us off?
Okay, well, as a certified nerd, I do not follow sports. I don't even follow like a single sport to any degree. So I would say the athlete I think I understand the hype behind the most is Tiger Woods. And Tiger Woods is like the only athlete who I have, like for fun watched on YouTube to see like his greatest moments and shit. And I think Tiger is kind of fascinating because he's like not just really good at golf, right? Because that's obvious, but he's also like this big cultural figure who like took this sport for old white men and like single-handedly made it relevant again. I mean, just like his entire like racial background, that he's like this like weird mix of Asian and black and a bunch of other things. He doesn't come from like the typical mold of a golfer, and he just like appeared on the stage in the late '90s and like just stormed all of these tournaments, right, and won everything. It's I don't know. It's like a bizarre story. It's like truly a greatest of all time moment in sports history. And if you watch like some of the shots he made at these Masters tournaments, like when he was in his prime, like in 2000, like this man defies the laws of physics. It's actually insane. I don't know how he does it, but it's clear he has a gift. And I think, there's something about like the precision required in golf, like to be able to hit this tiny ball like hundreds of yards into a hole. Like it really captures my attention in a way that I don't think many other sports do. Maybe because like golf is like super individualistic, right? It's all about the man hitting the ball. It's not about a team, right? So like it really kind of like swimming, I guess, it focuses on like these bigger than life figures like Michael Phelps is another example, right? Kind of just capture the public's attention because they're just so good at what they do. Like it changes the entire sport. And I think that's really cool.
Great. So any thoughts on his fall from grace, like in the sort of late 2000s?
I mean, I think, someone who made that much money at such a young age, I think he was like, like in his early 20s or late teens when he first like arrived, right? And he did the youth tournaments before he like obviously went on to like the actual tournaments. But yeah, I mean, that's like the level of fame that'll corrupt, I think, most people. So
yeah.
And it's kind of unfortunate that it happens. Like, I guess his vice was infidelity, right? Which is a little worse or more difficult to erase from the public's perception than like, I guess, a drug problem or a drinking problem.
Is it? I don't know. I almost feel like people kind of understand. Like, it's not as bad as like a crime, right?
Sure.
Like, I think substance abuse, you can always say like, yeah, they're a victim, but like,
I don't think many athletes or famous celebrities actually commit crime at the end. Like O.J. Simpson is the only example off the top of my head, right?
Right, or like say cheating, right? Like Lance Armstrong, right?
Yeah,
like, I think infidelity is pretty low. I
mean, I guess maybe it's not that bad because he has come back, right? Like a year ago, 2 years ago, whatever, he won the Masters.
Yeah, but I mean, with that fall from grace, there was like this worsening in public perception, but he also just started to play worse.
Like at the
same time. It's hard to say whether it was related, but like he is starting to have injury issues, like his back was really troubling him, and he's just never really been the same. I mean, he won
I thought he had a comeback recently.
He did. He won one of the major championships. I forget which one. It might have been the Masters. I forget.
I think it was the Masters. Yeah, because he got another green jacket, right?
Yeah, I think that's right. But like, he was on track to destroy that record. Oh, hey, like the record is like 18 majors from Jack Nicklaus, and then like Tiger had 14 by the time he was like in his early 30s, and like golfers play until they're like 60s, right? So he was like it should have been no contest him breaking this majors record, and then all this shit happens. He starts playing worse. He gets injury issues. He has to like change caddies a whole bunch of times, change coaches, and just like, I don't know. Like when I say fall from grace, it was just like sort of all aspects of his life. Like both professionally and personally, it was just
His
like,
hair.
Yeah,
The
hair
man went
loss is
from
rough.
looking perpetually 25 to looking like 50.
yeah. And
I
so
mean,
like,
yeah,
now you
but
really
I think-
now it's really a big question mark whether he's going to break this record. I mean, there were even thoughts that he could break like the like overall tournaments record, which is like more of just like a prolific kind of thing. Like you just have to attend all these tournaments, and which is like sort of annoying. But yeah, I don't know. Like he was set to be the greatest of all time until what happened in, I guess it was like 2008 or 2009, and then it all spiraled down from there. And so, I don't know,
But
it makes me
you
wonder-
got to think about like why, like Tiger had a meteoric rise because he changed the way people play golf, right? He focused on these really long drives and this kind of like athletic approach,
Mhm.
this very athletic approach that
Yeah.
like redefined the sport, right? Now you have like a ton of young new golfers who kind of have emulated his approach
Yeah.
and his training and are, you know, hitting further and faster and harder than
Yeah.
ever in history, right?
I don't
Certainly
think the
not.
sport is any more diverse. I feel like, I mean, when I look
I mean,
at
yeah,
the
it's mostly
numbers,
white men still.
it's still white men. Yeah.
Yeah, but he definitely changed the way it was played, and I
Mhm.
feel like that kind of like turning his body into a machine that could hit balls was really, I mean, it broke him down, right?
I mean,
I'm
yeah.
sure-
Do you guys think that, like, yeah, it's impressive he did it so young, but it's because of his like athletic approach and then all the injuries. It's like in any sport where you push your body that hard for any number of years, it's going to start, falling apart.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, the only reason why I'm really like pushing this like fall from grace point is that like when we talk about who the greatest athlete of all time is, like how much do we care about like the dominance that they had when they were at their best versus the longevity of their dominance? Because yeah, I mean, most golfers should be able to play for like 20, 30 something odd years, but like Tiger Woods, I don't know. Yeah, he sort of had this 10-year peak, and then after that, it's really been mostly mediocre, at least for like a professional golfer, right? And so
I think there's like, I mean, it's kind of a popularity contest, but you got to ask like how the public perceives the sport and how much they associate like the GOAT of that sport with the sport. And I like, besides Jack Nicklaus, I cannot name a single other golfer.
Phil
I couldn't
Mickelson?
name another golfer besides
Like,
Tiger Woods.
okay, sure, yeah, but like Tiger Woods is golf, right? Especially for our generation. Yeah, I mean, he's just the media star
yeah.
that made that sport popular again.
I loved following Tiger. I like, but when I was younger, my parents or my dad specifically, he like really got me into golf. We would go golfing all the time. We would follow golf, and I would really follow Tiger. And I don't know, I loved him. But then, you know, this fall from grace, and he just started playing worse, and it's like it's sad. But yeah. I do have a soft spot for him.
Yeah, definitely. Me too.
I'd imagine it's like most other sports that I can think of, there's a pretty diverse range of movements. But for golf, it must be so bad on your joints just because you're doing the same thing over and over and over again, right?
Yeah. I mean, you just watch. You could probably watch him in slow motion and just see the way his body like swings, right? And it's just, it must be so much stress and such awkward positions.
You ever done golfing before?
I've been to the driving range. I probably have been like tried golfing with my dad a couple of times because my dad was into golf, and that's why I knew Tiger growing up. Probably kind of like you, Osman. So it's hard, right? Like you gotta.
Yeah.
I don't know. Put a lot
We
of
should
power
do
into
Top Golf
that swing.
sometime.
That's not real
is a-
golf, though.
Yeah, but it's a blast. Way better than normal golf.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I
The
it's-
holes are
I feel like
massive, so
It's
you'd have
about
to
as
get
fun
one
as a driving range, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know. I
Is
mean,
it? It's basically a driving range with targets, right?
there's targets on a driving range. They're like, you know, they have
Oh,
like.
there
little-
are?
Yeah, I mean, not like
Oh, I didn't know that.
holes in the ground that are like sort of like engineered to. I don't know. Yeah, like they're like the
Let
balls
you
are
know
like
that
all
you got
tech.
close.
The balls are all teched up and stuff. So yeah, I guess that is fun. But I don't know. I've always just found going like driving range and Top Golf. It's just super satisfying to hit a ball like well and really far. That's what I've always found to be the appeal of those places.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I feel like for most people, Top Golf is like a drinking establishment.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yes,
Yeah.
the game is also fun.
It's a drinking pod with golf attached.
You know, like Top Golf in Houston, I think is the #1 like alcohol retailer or something. It has the most alcohol sales of any institution in the city,
Oh,
which is crazy.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
What? Like, I don't know. What about that? I went to Total Specs. Like they don't sell more alcohol.
Maybe
Oh, but
of any restaurant or bar.
Oh, okay.
yeah, 'cause they're more like a like wholesaler,
I wouldn't say wholesale.
different kind of retail.
Yeah. Anyway, I did want to make an honorable mention of Formula One racing.
Okay.
Something else my dad was really into watching
Interesting.
when I was growing up, and I was kind of into it too.
Wow. I
Remember,
didn't know that.
Michael Schumacher is kind of like considered the GOAT, I guess, of Formula One. And actually, a couple of years ago, he got into like a skiing accident and got into like a brain coma, or like a coma with like traumatic brain injuries. I don't know if he has gotten better, but he was like a big figure, I guess, in sports when I was growing up. And I remember watching him and kind of idolizing Formula One. I think Formula One's really cool. So that's another interesting sport.
What distinguishes it from NASCAR?
Well, it's a circuitous route, right? So Formula One travels around the world. They have like a series of tracks that they visit. Like there's one in Austin, actually. I think it's like the America Speedway or something, and it's built for Formula One. So it's always changing venues, and the track is always changing. And then it has a big emphasis on like the engineering. So like these teams form, right? These engineering teams. A lot of them are backed by like big car manufacturers, like Mercedes has probably the best team of the past decade. And they spend like millions of dollars like custom engineering these ridiculous cars. Yeah, so there's a big like technical aspect to it too.
Mm-hmm.
Like NASCAR they just go in a circle,
And so
it's boxcar racing.
As an
right?
athlete, what makes Michael Schumacher better than the other Formula One drivers?
Yo, they're actually hella athletic. I've actually heard.
Yeah, tell me about this. I feel like I know nothing about like.
Yeah, Justin.
Why couldn't I do this?
Well, I mean, I guess it's kind of hard to explain. I don't know that much about the sport. I just remember I watched a lot as a kid. Sometimes I like check out the subreddit and watch clips or something of recent races, but I don't like follow it in depth. But I think like for Schumacher and other really well-performing drivers, it's like, what makes you good at driving, right? It's being able to like respond to like changes around you very quickly, right? Because in Formula One, kind of like NASCAR, they're all clustered together a lot of the time. And I guess you just have to be able to identify a path and the path of least resistance, the shortest path around the track, and be able to like change at a moment's notice, respond to conditions.
Yeah, but like
sure, like they're
on
also like
like
very physically fit. Right?
Yeah, like on a toll on your body, like none of us could handle being in that car like for any sustained amount of time. There's no AC because they're trying to reduce weight, right? So it's hot as fuck. These guys often lose like 10 pounds plus of water in like a single race because they're sweating so damn much.
And they're
like there's
wearing
so
these
many
like
Gs
fire retardant suits, right?
Yeah, it's extra
yeah.
hot, right? Yeah, they get so many G's put on their body that the average human being like us would pass out on a turn, right? Like their average reaction time is freakish. Like you watch them do those reaction speed tests and they're like inhuman. Like
Yeah.
I read a story once about, I think it was a NASCAR driver, but it might have been Formula One, where they had set up this track incorrectly, or the track had like gotten fucked up. And this guy like got in a crash, right? And they were like, yo, what made the crash? And he goes, oh, the track moved. And they were like, oh, he's making excuses or whatever. But when they measured where the track should have been and where it actually was, they found out the track was literally like half a centimeter off where he had expected it to be. And so his car had ended up hitting it or something and completely spun him out, right?
Yeah,
like,
it's kind of
these guys
hard
are
to
actually next level athletes.
it's hard to see on TV when you watch it, but like the speeds these guys are approaching these corners at is insane, right? Like a Formula One car maxes at like 220, 250 miles an hour or something insane. And like most of the time, yeah, they're going over 100 miles an hour, making these tight ass turns, and it's just like, and they're being exposed to like incredible amounts of force on the car and on their bodies. It's just insane, and they're doing it for like
super
hours.
high levels of heat. Yeah.
So I mean, those guys do get paid a lot, and like, it's a big, very profitable sport. But
Do they wear diapers?
I don't think you
don't know.
need to, right?
I don't know. I mean, it's like a few hours, right? Like this one race. I feel like maybe they have to go to the bathroom.
That's a good question. I don't know. I mean, they get to make pit
Melis,
stops.
Melis,
Hey
we're
everyone,
talking
sorry I'm a
about
little late. Lost track of
no,
time.
no worries. We're talking about the greatest athlete of all time, or in your opinion, your favorite, or the greatest in general.
Oh, I thought you guys did this
Um,
topic already.
No,
No.
we didn't. We've pushed it about 15 times because they just enjoyed disenfranchising me.
What? You disenfranchise yourself.
Are you gonna
The athlete.
No, let's victim blame. Let's victim blame. Let's do this. I like that. That's fun.
All right. So I'm
Let's
just gonna
let's just change the topic to toxic masculinity. Let's just do that. No? Okay, cool. We'll just keep talking my topic. Cool.
I mean, in that case, I don't think I really have much to share. I don't really watch sports like that.
I don't know. I'm already surprised at how much I've been able to say. I don't know anything about sports.
Yeah, no.
Just I feel like you'll
it's
talk about
hockey.
anything.
That's true. That's true.
Talk about your favorite Smash player, esports athlete. Literally any
I
competitor.
mean, I don't
that
really
you've heard
follow
of,
esports
like.
that like much though, so I don't even have to.
Even if you just know a celebrity athlete, just talk about them.
Yeah,
we were just talking about Tiger Woods, and half the conversation was not about golf. It was about him cheating.
Even then, I
Bro,
don't even
he had
follow
this sex
celebrities that
addiction.
much either.
Why are we
Like,
Why don't you
the
just give it a
athletes.
try instead of just keep telling us why you can and why you can't?
I mean, I could come. I mean, I don't know what to come up with. Like
Well,
actually,
All right,
give
maybe
you a
somebody
minute.
else can go in the meantime.
but yeah, someone else should
He's,
go.
he
I mean,
sort
I'm down
of
to
he
just-
hasn't had time to think about it.
Yeah.
Okay. So I've given this a decent amount of thought.
Several months.
And
it seems,
what's that?
You thought about
Yeah,
this for several
I've had
months at least.
I've had 15 episodes to think about my answer to this. But I'm the kind of person that really loves going on YouTube and like watching highlights of like incredible athletes of like a lot of different sports, right? Mainly I'll see a Reddit comment, they'll be like, yo, this dude's insane at ping pong or something. I'll be like, oh shit, let's check this out. And I'll just spend like an afternoon just wasting my time. It's probably why I didn't get good grades. In any case. That's why for me, when we look like at the GOAT of like sports, I feel like it's got to be someone who there's a few different qualifications in my mind, right? There shouldn't be much of so there's two different ways I'm thinking about it. The first one is you are just so far above your peers in athleticism, in accomplishments, in all around greatness within your sport that there's no competition for whether or not you're the GOAT, right? Like within your own sport, right? Like you have to be so dominant. So like the first person that comes to mind for that qualification would be like Wayne Gretzky, right? Within hockey, like no one else is the GOAT. Like people call him, I think, the great one, right? Because he was just so incredible, right? And then when people think about like hockey, I think if you are even like kind of aware of it, you know his name. And apparently the way he played was just so different, right? Like he'd be like a ghost in front of you. Everyone else would be like just raw speed, raw power, and then he would be like tons of finesse. You played from a super young age. But yeah, I don't know. My heart doesn't say him. I'll get to that. Another athlete I think about is Jim Thorpe. Have you guys heard of him? Yeah. So dude, no. Well,
Was Ian
I feel
Thorpe?
like he might have done that. No. Well, so he was like he
decathlon.
played in like the mid 20th century. He was like a Native American man. And the dude basically did whatever sport came in front of him and excelled at it. Like he won like gold at the decathlon. He would just constantly win random events without training. I think he won the marathon after his shoes got stolen and he had to wear two shoes he found at a dumpster that didn't fit and were mismatching, right? I think he played professional baseball, football, and basketball. Obviously at a time when, they were all kind of in their infancy in the US. But I don't know, like people always talk about like greatest all around athletes and they always talk about like Bo Jackson. I think Jim Thorpe could have kicked his ass at like most sports they would have done, just because it seems like you could put that guy into literally any rule set with anything that involved coordination or general athleticism, and he would excel. I highly recommend just reading his wiki page, doing some research on him. Dude was like a freak of nature.
When was he alive?
I want to say
I've got his
mid-20th
page
century, but I could
open.
be off.
He died in 1953.
Oh, okay. So this
Yeah.
is like a long time ago. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So this is like, obviously people are like, oh, 100 years ago, people were 50% as fast, 50% as strong and shit. And like, I don't know. I've also seen pretty convincing things that say that people weren't actually that much less athletic back then. It was just mainly training methods, nutrition, and just how much better our track and shoes got and everything.
Mhm.
You know.
So is this what your heart says, Jim Thorpe?
No, that's not what my heart says either. This is more what my head says too. Yeah.
All right.
But I'm just convinced. You take Jim Thorpe, you put him in like in modern day sports. I still feel like he would be an elite competitor.
All right. So you've given two names, but no answer yet, is what I'm hearing.
Right. And so the answer my heart says, but I think it's hard for me to justify with my brain, is Muhammad Ali.
Mhm.
And I say that because I don't think most like hardcore boxing fans could say he was strictly the most accomplished or the gifted or the most powerful or the most dominant boxer. And I don't know that he, like, when we look at like general athleticism and could cross sports, I don't think he fits like the Bo Jackson or Jim Thorpe archetype well. But I don't know, with like athletes that transcend sports, I don't know. I think he does it for me, right? And I feel like athletes that transcend sports for me and my mom, there's two, right? And it's him and Michael Jordan, right? And I think when people think of boxing, they think Muhammad Ali. When people think of basketball, they think Michael Jordan. For me, there's less of a case for Michael Jordan because, go ahead.
I'm curious about the parts that he did to transcend sports. I feel like this is something I've heard about him in the past. Like, is it like the social justice aspect of him? And if so, can you expand on that? Or like just in general, what are these parts of him that like transcend sports in your opinion?
Yeah, so I think the two things primarily are his involvement in the civil rights movement and his involvement with the Vietnam War, right? Within the civil rights movement, he very publicly changed his name from Cassius Clay to Muhammad Ali, right? Said Cassius Clay was his slave name, and I think brought Black athletes within boxing to a different level of publicity and notoriety that no other athlete had done before him, right? The man, I don't know, he had like a different brand, right? Like a lot of other boxers had maybe a similar level of athleticism or accomplishment, but like the man could talk, right? Like a lot, he oh God, sorry, I'm going all over the place, but let's say within civil rights, he knew Malcolm X. He got involved within, I think, the Brotherhood of Islam, and he was like a huge voice for championing the rights of Black Americans, right? That was a huge reason. I think the reason he didn't want to fight in Vietnam was that the government in America perpetuated injustice against Black Americans, and they wanted him to go out to perpetuate more injustice against, Asian people. And he was like, nah, fuck that, right? And a lot of people, I think LeBron especially comes to mind, like to support all these different causes until it causes them personal sacrifice, right? And that's something that I don't think he ever shied away from. In the midst of his prime, right? Like as he was entering his athletic prime, where he would have earned the most money, earned the most titles, beaten down the most opponents in spectacular fashion, he was like, fuck it, I'm not joining the draft. I'm going to go to prison instead. And they put him in prison for like the best years of his career. Literally lost millions out on it, lost so many bouts. And then people are like, well, yeah, I mean, he went to prison or he went to war. But like he was going to get you given a sweet deal. They were like, we're just going to let you fight exhibitions and just make money for us and raise money and raise wartime bonds and shit. And, you're not going to see any combat. And he was like, nah, fuck that. I'm not fighting for you guys. And they put him in jail. So I don't know. This is a guy who really like actually stands by his principles, by his standards. And I think his brand was truly bigger than sports, right? Like he was on all these talk shows. He has like spoken word albums, which are basically like a precursor to modern day hip hop and rap. Really interesting to listen to. This guy could make Conor McGregor look like he'd never spoken a day in his life when it came to trash talking. Like the way he spoke, it just captures you when you watch him. And that's all again outside his boxing, which I think most boxing fans would have him like easily a top 5, maybe a top 3 boxer. Even considering the fact that he didn't fight in his prime. I personally think had he fought in his prime, he probably would be like easy argument for top 1 or 2. But yeah, that's my
That's what
long
your
and
heart
short case
says.
for.
And
So
Yeah,
what
that's my
you've been
hard-
talking about, I think most of the most time spent was on non-boxing related achievements. So it's kind of like he's an athlete who is great, but what makes him great isn't necessarily just his athleticism. It's like you were saying, right? He's not necessarily the top in any one dimension of boxing, even given that boxing's one particular sport, right? But it's all this other stuff about the person that makes him great. At least that's what I'm
Yeah.
getting from your
Yeah,
description.
absolutely. I think he transcends the sport, right? Like I think if you try to find Michael Jordan in a mainstream American history book, like if you find him, he's in the pop culture section. If you look at Muhammad Ali in the American history books, he's right there in the Vietnam War section, right, or the civil rights section. You know, like he legitimately is an important figure in one of the most tumultuous times in American history.
One quick question. You mentioned he knew Malcolm X, and then you said Brotherhood of what?
Islam.
Oh, so does he believe in Islam?
Yeah. So when he converted to Islam, he changed his name from Cassius Clay, which is the name he was born with, and also the name of his like ancestors' owner. And he changed it from Cassius Clay to Muhammad Ali. So
how did he get exposed to Islam as a religion? Like it just, yeah. I'm just interested to hear the story.
I'm actually not super familiar with that part. I want to say it was through Malcolm X, but I could be totally off. Later on, he disassociated himself with the Nation of Islam, but he was still a Muslim. I think because he felt like, I mean, people in general feel that they like had some extremist views. Yeah, I mean, I think so. One of the big moments of his career was, I think another black fighter would call him Cassius Clay before the fight, and there's videos of this, and he was like, "Why are you calling me Cassius Clay? I told you what my name is." And he was like, "No, your name's like." You can tell the difference in like, if not actual intelligence, perceived intelligence. The guy was like, "Oh, your name's Cassius Clay," and he's like, "No, I told you my name's not Cassius Clay. It's Muhammad Ali." And he like said like 15 different things about how he was gonna kick his ass in like super colorful language. And then he gets in the ring, and he puts the beat down on this dude. And the whole time he's beating his ass down, he's shouting, "What's my name?" And he punched him in the face, right? And so there's a super famous picture of him like screaming at the dude as the dude's like on the ground, like, "Oh fuck, where am I?" You know, like vicious, dude.
If this wasn't a sport where that's what you're supposed to do, I think that'd be quite a questionable set of actions undertaken by this guy, just to get his name right and to beat the shit out of this person.
Yeah. I mean, like he even outside of like the sports sanctioned shit, like he has some controversy for like the Nation of Islam stuff a little, but like I think a lot of his controversy is with how he treated Al Frazier. I think his name's Al Frazier, but like one of his big nemesis, basically at the start of his career, they were pretty friendly. I think they might have trained together. This guy was another great in heavyweight boxing, and their period of heavyweight boxing is considered the golden period, right? Where like in the NBA today is like kind of the golden period, or whatever is the most recent. But in boxing, people don't necessarily think so because it's such an old sport, and the amount of talent's not necessarily the same. So nowadays, people generally regard the lower weight classes as having deeper talent pools, whereas in Muhammad Ali's age, there were like multiple greats and many people who were vying for the greatest titles. So I think people call it the golden age of heavyweight boxing. But at the time, Joe Frazier was one of Ali's main rivals, right? But at one point, when Ali was sent to jail for some demonstration or whatever, this guy went and bailed Ali out. He was like a legitimately good dude. And like Ali, because he's like hot-headed, he like had a big mouth. This guy, he like ruined Joe Frazier's life. Like he would go on TV, he would call Joe Frazier Uncle Tom, which I'm sure you guys all know what Uncle Tom is. And he would call him an enemy of the black community, like a friend to the white man or whatever. He would say like Joe Frazier, he would say horrible things about him, like unforgivable things, to the point where like over the rivalry, I think Ali ended up getting the best of him, but in the boxing matches. But like when Ali died, of like Parkinson's, they had many attempts to reconcile over the years, but he was basically like, yeah, serves him right. Like his opponent was like, yeah, him getting Parkinson's, that's karma. because of all the shit he put me through.
Is that
And like
famous
none of that shit
line,
was true.
down goes Frazier, right? That's like Ali versus Frazier, or is that something?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think they had 3 fights, but I could be mistaken in that regard.
Yeah.
But yeah, highly recommend you guys just watching like talking and boxing highlights of him, because like the dude fought like almost no other fighter I've ever seen. Super light on his feet, super quick. And the way he talked was also not like any other person I've ever seen. You know, it's like he was written out of a movie. It's ridiculous.
No, I like the way that you framed all of this. Like, you know, maybe your head says Wayne Gretzky and Jim Thorpe, but your heart says Muhammad Ali. And I don't know, I think that gets at like an interesting side to this question of like who the greatest athlete is. It's like the person who, it's not just like how they behave in the ring or on the court or wherever on the field, but it's like sort of how they carry themselves as like athletes in society. Like they bring that soul and spirit of an athlete, not just, you know, boxing, but also to like how they live their life and how they like sort of live in our society. Yeah, so I do think that, yeah, there's something about like Muhammad Ali that's like, it's hard to pin down exactly what it is, I guess. But it's like,
It's something
seems
transcendent.
like the right answer. Just like when you say his name, yeah, that guy's that was a
It just comes down to who you admire, it sounds like, you know, with an athletic spin. I think that's really what it is. It's just Alan admires this guy and what he was able to do just over the course of his life. It so happened that one of those achievements related to athletics.
Yeah. Alan, do you have a response to that?
Yeah, no, I definitely, right? Like, yeah. I mean, the whole, I think that's why, like, when Frank and I talk about it too, or like when Frank and I talk about it, it's always with regard to like LeBron James versus Michael Jordan. And I mean, I don't really have a dog in that conversation, but like, I think there's never going to be an answer to that question, no matter what. Doesn't matter if he wins 3 more championships or whatever, plays till he's 50. Like, I think the whole question of being a GOAT or being the greatest is it's so subjective, right? Everyone has different standards. Everyone has, even within a sport, like I was telling Frank, even if you could take them out of time, give them clone teammates, right? Have them play 1-on-1 and 5-on-5 basketball, and like LeBron James, Michael Jordan, like basically do a laboratory perfect experiment to see who would win more against each other. People would still not accept that, right? Because they have different standards. They'd be like, well, for their respective times, you know, this person's the GOAT. This, you know, like, I don't think there's a definitive answer, but I really do think it's about like what speaks to you and what's important to you, right?
But there you made an interesting point. That's a different question. Greatest of all time versus greatest of their time. Like, there are multiple spots for greatest of their time. In fact, everyone can be the greatest of their time in their prime. So, like, if in that situation, right, you're saying like you could get consensus on greatest of all time, but like within their own respective times, there's other subcategories. I think that's already a pretty big win. I'd be surprised if people could agree, even in the laboratory experiment, to your point. But just, I thought it was interesting that you kind of made that distinction. Well, since you were talking about LeBron James, I figure I might as well just pick it up from there, because that's probably the guy that stood out to me as being most admirable. I don't know much about what he does off the court. It's just I had a really strong. That year Osman and I was watching Game 7. Like, it left a really deep impression on me.
Because the 2016 NBA Finals, just as some background for people, it was one of those
so I watched
NBA
the whole
Finals of all time.
So Osman and I watched the whole series kind of like, you know, over the full course, right? And so it was quite the journey, in the sense that at the start of the matches, right? Like, I didn't know anyone else on. It was the Cavs at the time, right? I didn't really know anyone on the team, right? Mm-hmm. So, you know, as unfair as the statement may be, it looked like LeBron had to carry, like, you know, a team of bots, right? From my perspective, just because I didn't know them, right? It turns out Kyrie was also a pretty good player, particularly game 5. He really stepped up and delivered, right? But before then, it literally looked like LeBron had to drag their asses across the finish line against a stacked Warriors team, right? Whereas like in the Warriors team, like everyone's great. In a way, like in the Incredibles, no one was great in my eyes for that very same reason, right? But we got LeBron. This guy is like, he's a superstar. Can he do it, right? Or is the circumstance going to overcome it? So there's a really big kind of like point of conflict, right? And so by the time it was Game 7, like he just looked tired. Like part of it's just my mind filling in the gaps. Like he must be tired after all this shit. But like the play that I remember the clearest was like someone on the Warriors team was going for a fast break, right? It was like fourth quarter, very close to the end. We were having like connectivity issues, so it was very stressful. Like, why can't we see this live? But so that play I didn't see live, but when we jumped back in and we saw the replay, it was just like it almost like everyone else on the Cavs team was like, oh yeah, fuck, they're gonna take the lead here. LeBron was like, nope, I'm coming in, and he comes in with this big block from behind. I don't even know if that was legal, but it was just kind of like stepping up and kind of, meeting or beating expectations, right? I think Osman's finding the clip.
Oh, I remember this. Is everyone else getting like 2 frames a second?
Yeah.
Oh, my bad.
It's very choppy, so you can't really see the effect.
Yeah, I thought it was
the
just
play
me.
that stood out to me. Right? So it's
was this the chase down block where he like
the chase down block? Is that the game was tied like 89-89, and like nobody had been scoring for like 3 or 4 minutes. And this was with like a minute and a half or something to go. Yeah, it was definitely frustrating for us because we were having connectivity issues, but it's just it was just superhuman effort by LeBron James to just, I don't know, like when you
carry the team.
Like they call this the block. Like it's like one of the most important blocks in NBA history. That block. It's just I don't know. I mean, there's something about a block that requires so much effort. It's like he was fucking sprinting down the court to prevent Andre Iguodala.
Yeah, he started behind him, right?
Yeah. It's, I mean, no, definitely you guys gotta look it up when, I wish I could just like pull up the game or something. Cause it's like, it's just the context of the game. It's game 7, after they were down 3-1 in this series. Like, yeah. And like Kevin said, it's just been such a long series. I'm sure he was tired. At the end of the game's tied. They have this, what looks like an easy layup, and LeBron finds his way, he hustles down and he gets the block. And, that was definitely incredible. But
and, not trying to say that my athleticism is anyway comparable to LeBron, but that particular play resonated a lot with me because from my own high school basketball career, I had a very similar end of career experience that stuck with me. It's a very similar situation in the sense that, did I DC?
Oh, you're there.
No, you're there. Oh, wait, no, I think he DC'd now. He's frozen.
Yeah. Oh, you're
back.
back.
Wait, Kevin, I think you're back. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Wait, what was the last thing you guys heard?
You said I had a similar experience at the end of my basketball career.
Yeah. So it was a very similar play where someone's running down with a fast break, and then like everyone was tired, but I was like, we spent too much time getting here, so I didn't block him. I ran past him and planted my feet, and I got a charge call. Right. So not as visually spectacular, but like that's why the play resonated a lot with me. It's like, yeah, I can really appreciate that hustle because like a lot of people, like as skilled as they are up here, it's not that strong. Right. Like they just whatever. Right. And then,
Yeah. Like thinking about that block. Can you imagine you're fucking dead tired. You're so down, right? Everyone else on your team's defeated. And then you're like, no, I'm going to run down this other superhuman freak athlete when he already has a lead on me and ruin his life. Dude, like I watched James Harden watch a dude run straight past him, not even put his hands up and then just score on him. And he's like, whatever. I'm too tired to play defense. And I'm like, what is this shit? Like, what is this
Yeah.
completely difference in like attitude?
Yeah, I just watched the clip. It was pretty lit.
Yeah,
That's insane.
definitely the commentator too. It's like an all-time great. I don't know. It's just like it's his reaction as he's seeing it. It's like Curry to Iguodala goes for the layup, blocked by James.
Oh yeah, it's so iconic. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's just so hype. Like, and it sucks that we didn't get to see it live, but when
It's close enough.
I was like, oh my god, that's crazy.
Yeah, it was insane. So yeah, that was a very exciting series for me to watch. As an honorable mention, I wanted to mention Kevin Durant. He does not give me the same vibe as LeBron at all. Probably
Bro,
because
he
while
took the
was on
hardest
OKC
path.
I'm sorry.
He took the hardest path to win. You know.
Yeah. There's
Well, so I mean, I don't know how they compare really in terms of like basketball talent, but I guess two facts that I will point to is one, when he was on OKC, I think there was one other talent, like very talented player, Westbrook, I think,
Mhm.
right, or at least generally believed talent, but he wasn't able to like pull anything off there, right? Which is why he left, right, and he joined the Warriors. And now on the Warriors, obviously have many skilled players, right? He doesn't necessarily stand out as much as LeBron did on the Cavs, in my view, right? But I did notice a kind of a similar kind of attitude of like being mentally ready to deliver when the team needs him. Like that's what really made me feel like he didn't fit in with the team, because like whereas the rest of the Warriors, they kind of like rose and fell kind of together, right? It was kind of like a very team synchronized performance, right? Everyone would pop off or everyone would just suck for a game, right? Kevin Durant was the guy who reliably every game, he's always there, he's always doing his thing, always providing constant value. It's like when you buy stocks, right? You have the one stock that just grows at 3% every year, or maybe 5% every year, just like very steady, very good growth. Like that to me is just kind of like, yeah, he doesn't I don't know what's the phrase. It's not flake, but he doesn't like
Is he clutch?
he's what's
No, I don't think
he's not
clutch,
even
but he's
clutch because
consistent-
it's not like
consistent
he
greatness.
Hmm?
It's like he's consistent, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah. It's not clutch in the sense that, oh, like, only in those like really, really like tough situations does he like pull through. It's more like, no, he just does his shit and he always does his shit. He doesn't give a shit about what the situation is, right? And that's like so valuable because the play I remember him for, I think it was against it probably was against the Cavs, right? It was the last game, it might have been game 6 or something, right? But it was just kind of like there. I don't know how much time was left.
2 to 3.
Yeah, they just gave them as a boom. Got it. No problem. It's over now, guys. Don't worry about it. Right? Like no drama. Like we were all expecting some kind of like plays where it's kind of like, oh, what if the coach does this free throw? No, he just ended it, which is like,
Yeah.
nope. Like you give the ball to me, it's over, right? So it's like this. It just conveys to me kind of a level of excellence, in their role on the team. Whether it's not just technical skill, but just kind of also the mental willingness and readiness to kind of play that linchpin role in the team. So
Yeah.
that to me screams excellent athlete. And I wouldn't go so far as to say they are now the greatest of all time, because I still don't know what that means to me, but I certainly think that they've exhibited admirable qualities.
Yeah, I think it's interesting you mentioned KD as like being especially mentally strong, because my impression from Reddit memes is that he's incredibly mentally weak. Like,
I mean, he's mentally weak on Instagram.
Like
because
criticism, right?
He responds to haters. Like he gets.
But like in the
shit
game,
from
he's mentally
commenters.
strong.
But like in game, I absolutely agree with Kevin's description of him. It's like yeah, the phrase that has stuck with me now is he's mentally prepared to deliver. Like he's in the game and he will play his best and he will like be amazing. Like he's just I think in game mentally prepared is definitely the way to describe him. But yeah, on Instagram, I don't know why he has like burner accounts. So like yeah, I mean it's
Yeah, it's okay. Everyone's insecure, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I guess insecure about different things, and he's insecure about social media. So that's whatever. But maybe that's sort of
Yeah.
a separate conversation. Not
You know,
really
I think in
about him as an
terms of
athlete.
what's impressive or like what's difficult, I think like when I'm tiering it, I'm like winning as a team versus another team. For me, as an individual accomplishment, is a pretty low tier one, right? And then winning as an individual against another individual is like more difficult because you don't have other people to rely on. You can't. There's no slackers, right? No excuses. For me, the hardest thing, kind of to Kevin's point about LeBron, is winning as an individual against a team, which is very much how it felt for him in 2016, right? Where like it felt he dragged their asses across the finish line.
He had
Like he didn't
Kyrie
just go against one
Irving. He
person.
had Kevin Love. He wasn't by himself.
Yeah, I don't know. I remember watching the series and thinking, wow, everyone else is
They
fucking up a
lose
lot
in
and
5
really-
without Kyrie Irving. Absolutely.
I agree.
Yeah.
Kyrie
Yeah, sure,
redeemed
Popped the
himself in
fuck
my
off in
eyes
game
for
5.
Game 5.
Yeah.
So like
Yeah,
he
yeah,
was
he
worth
can't-
something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
he can't win like 1v5 literally, right? But like, having those moments as one athlete in a team of 5 or a team of however many, and being the one to like put the team on your back, that for me is like mind blowing.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that makes sense as like sort of a framework for thinking about it in terms of like greatest athlete accomplishments.
Yeah, I feel like Kevin Love's performance that series he did not live up to the amount of attention that he got from the commentator. It was like, Kevin Love was like, what is Kevin Love doing? What do you mean, Kevin Love? What has he done?
Yeah. There was supposed to be a big 3, but yeah, definitely it was a big 1, and then there's Kyrie, and then Kevin Love is yeah, I don't know. He's the 3rd best for sure. It's just that for him to be the 3rd best,
It's like a pretty big drop off from 1 and 2, and especially a big drop off from 1.
Yeah. All right. Great answer. I think I'm going to respond next then, because I think my answer is pretty related to this LeBron and KD answer, because my answer is a guy who beat them both in the 2011 NBA playoffs. And so, yeah, I'm going to take the angle of favorite athlete, because
Oh my God.
I love the guy, but there's no way that I can really honestly say that he's the greatest athlete of all time. But he holds a special place in my heart, and his name is Dirk Nowitzki. He's right here. He's the background on my phone.
You need a girlfriend. That's all. All that screensaver tells me is you need a girlfriend.
This is him shooting his how do you call it? His patent one-legged fadeaway. And he played for the Dallas Mavericks from, I believe, 1998 to 2019. And he spent 21 seasons with one team. I think that's the longest, or tied for the longest with one team. His greatest accomplishment was winning the 2011 NBA Finals. He got the NBA MVP, the Finals MVP for that. It was against LeBron James and the Miami Heat. And in the series before, he actually beat Kevin Durant and the Oklahoma City Thunder. So he's probably from like a different generation, I guess, of the NBA. Like LeBron and KD are sort of like the greatest of the 2010s, and then Dirk is more about like the 2000s. So it's that 2011 is sort of like, I feel like a good transition between like the great 2000s athletes versus like LeBron then dominates for the rest of the decade. So as far as like greatest NBA athletes, certainly not. I mean, he's one of the greatest, but he's not like the greatest. He only has 1 NBA championship versus like Michael Jordan has 6, LeBron has 4. It's
but that one that he has,
LeBron has 5. But that one that he has is so magnificent, it's such a beautiful final. Like it was like the playoff, like the story of Dirk's career up until that point was that he was a playoff choker, right? He went to the NBA Finals in 2006, also against the Miami Heat, and they were up 2-0 in the finals, and then they ended up losing 4 straight games to then lose the finals, right? This is in 2006, okay? This is when I first started watching basketball, and let me tell you guys, that series fucked me up. All right. Like when we lost the finals after like, I don't know, we were like doing so well in the first 3 series. You play like 4 series overall. So like you have to win 4 straight series to basically win the championship. And they won the first 3 like pretty convincingly. We were up 2-0 in the finals, and then to lose 4 straight games to lose that series in the championship, like it destroyed me. Like I remember like crying like my eyes out because we lost that. Like I was so upset. Like I don't know, up until then I was like reading the newspaper every day. Like that was sort of like my most reliable way of like getting sports news. And after that, I just like couldn't look at the criticisms. It just hurt me to like think about, to read about. I was so upset when we lost that. Okay, that's 2006. 2007, we have the best record in the NBA in the regular season. Dirk wins the NBA MVP, and in the first round of the playoffs, we lose against the lowest ranked playoff team in our conference in the first round, right? I mentioned you have to win 4 straight rounds. We lost in the first round that year in 2007 when we were the best in the regular season. We had the best player in the league in Dirk. Like he was the best for that year, right? And we still lost. And
Well, they always pair the highest seed and the lowest seed, right? And then like go from there.
Yeah. So we lost in the first round against the worst team in the playoffs. And that, when I say 2006 fucked me up, 2007 fucked me up even more. Like I was so mad that we lost to the fucking Golden State Warriors. I hated the Golden State Warriors team for so long. Like I could not look at that team without thinking about that series and just like feeling anger inside because I hated them so much for what they did to Dirk, the Dallas Mavericks. It just upset me so much. And like, you know, for all the criticism that Dirk got in 2006 for not being able to close out, you got even more criticism for being labeled as the best player in the NBA for that season and then losing in the fucking first round against the worst team in the playoffs. All right. Like this team eked into the playoffs. They literally, like, if they lost one more game, they wouldn't have even been in the playoffs. And they needed that last win of the regular season to get into the playoffs, and they fucking beat us. It was so upsetting. All right. And so then, like,
it sounds like you're still not over it, bro.
I have
It's
only,
childhood trauma.
like, it was, I think last Christmas was the first time that I ever looked at a highlight of that series again. Like, I just could not, I couldn't read about, I didn't want to think about it at all. It
12
it
years
hurt me
later.
so much to think about that series.
Sounds like you're in an abusive relationship, Ozzy.
Oh my god.
Bro,
You
yeah,
just
like
can't
someone-
leave it alone. You come back every year.
No, but
You're asking
listen,
for
listen,
more.
I think honestly, guys, me watching the highlights of that series, I was looking at like, it was game 6, I think, or maybe it was probably an earlier game in that series. We lost in 6 games to the Golden State Warriors, but yeah, I think it was a big step for me personally to have, you know, actually finally rewatched some of those highlights. And now that I've rewatched it, it's absolutely not Dirk's fault. In my opinion, it's Jerry Stackhouse's fault. It's not important, but it's
Yeah, wait, did you feel catharsis when you finally rewatched it? Like, did you feel like you were able to move on with a chapter of your life?
A little bit, yeah, definitely. I mean, this is
closure.
especially since like Dirk had already retired too. I was sort of watching this as like this was like Dirk's final season, and like yeah, I don't know. I think it definitely, I don't know. Dirk's sort of whole career is just like, yeah, it's now sort of closed. It's like a closed chapter, and yeah, definitely, I agree with Alan's idea that I've sort of, I don't know, I'm sort of taking the first steps to move on, I guess. Anyway, I don't know. These are the low points, right? So this is 2006, 2007. We sort of, the team sort of gets retooled from like 2008 to 2010 because like after these 2 just awful defeats, we're like, we need to do something different. So we get like a new coach, we get new players. And so there's some like, you know, I mean, some like transition time in like 2008, 2010. And then 2011 hits. And I mean, most people don't think that we're going to do well at all. Like, I mean, after like 2006 and 2007, and then like all this like retooling from 2008 to 2010, like nobody really thinks that we're going to be that good. And we end up being maybe like 3rd or 4th best in the entire NBA. And so we're like, this is out of like 30 teams, right? So like, you know, we're a good team, but like nobody really takes us seriously because of like the lack of playoff success from the previous years. So like people think that, oh, when they get into the playoffs, they're just going to suck like they always do. They're just not going to bring it. But then Dirk and the Dallas Mavericks, which, you know, honorable mentions are Jason Terry, JJ Barea, even like Deshaun Stevenson was going off. Sean Marion was super important. All these people are critical to our run, right? And like people, every single round of that series, of that playoffs, people wrote us off. Like if you like look at like, I don't know, like the ESPN like predictions for like each round of the playoffs that the Mavs had, every single time, like more analysts would say that like the Mavs would lose, right? Because like we were just like underdogs that whole playoff run because like of the lack of playoff success that we had. And so yeah, but then we just destroyed everybody. We beat the back-to-back defending champs in the Lakers, who had Kobe Bryant, right? Rest in peace. And then we also defeated Kevin Durant in the Western Conference Finals. We defeated LeBron James and Dwayne Wade in the NBA Finals. And just like, I don't know, winning that finals and like excising all of the demons of the past from 2006 to 2007 just felt so good. It was just an amazing playoff run. And I think like, I don't know, you know, in answering this question about my favorite athlete, like Dirk absolutely like personally affected me the most. And like I said, I don't know, has a special place in my heart. And so, you know, when I'm answering this question about who the greatest athlete is of all time or my favorite athlete, I can't go without saying Dirk. And so it's
Your heart's got to say Dirk.
Yeah, he is truly a hero in my eyes. For I don't know, just like that journey that he went through, like all the criticism that he got, all the like I don't know, like what happened in 2006 and 2007. Like for as much as it hurt me, I couldn't imagine how it must have felt to be Dirk, like to like be the leader of this team, to let that stuff happen to him. I just yeah, I don't know. I know in 2011 he was also like so overwhelmed with it all that like he like walked into the locker room and started crying. Like that was like the first thing that he did when like the buzzer went off and his team had won the NBA Finals. So yeah. He also, I remember he got like a gift from Ali, Muhammad Ali. It was like a boxing glove with his like autograph on it, and it was like "For the greatest." Because
oh, that's cool.
Yeah, because it's like, yeah, I don't know, like I think the story really embodies the like the heart of a champion. Like he's just, I mean, well, you know, he would, I don't know, he's like this underdog story about like he had suffered these losses in the past when like his teams had expected so much of him, and he finally pulled through against these big bad evil guys in the Heat and LeBron James.
Yeah, they were like super stacked, right?
Yeah. I mean, it was so funny at the time too, because everybody at the time hated Miami Heat and LeBron James because like the year before, LeBron had decided to form a super team in Miami with like Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh.
What is it called? The Decision?
The Decision. They had an hour-long special on ESPN about the decision that LeBron James made for like which team he was going to be on, right? Like, and like, you know, the famous line is like he's like talking to this dude and then he's about to like say his decision, and he's like, I'm going to take my talents to South Beach. And then everybody just goes crazy. And then like a few days later, they have this big like special parade. And then at the end of the parade, they're like, we're not going to win 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6. Like this is like number of championships they're gonna get. And then in that first year, when they're in the NBA Finals, they lose to fucking Dirk Nowitzki and the Dallas Mavericks. Yeah.
How many did they end up winning? Like
2.
The Heat.
They won 2.
Okay, well that's premature celebration for sure.
For sure, yeah.
Well, it's so interesting because it's like I feel like because most people are fans of LeBron, I feel like Dirk's career often is like reduced to like an apostrophe or whatever in or an asterisk in like LeBron's career. Like, oh, this is the career. This is the year that LeBron should have won, but got fucked by Dirk.
Yeah.
And
so I mean,
like,
for a lot of people, that's like, you know, Dirk had his 2006 and 2007. LeBron has his 2011. Like that is the year that he gets so much shit for. It's like a growing year for them. Dwayne Wade actually came out with this like podcast recently. He was like on some episode of some podcast, and like the interview was about the 2011 NBA Finals, or they were talking about it. And like after the finals, they were vacationing in the Bahamas or somewhere, I don't know, somewhere in the Caribbean. And they were like at a bar, and you know, they're famous athletes, so they just get let in, right? There's like a line into the bar, but they're just like, you know, all right, Dwayne Wade and LeBron James are here, let them in the fucking door, right? But then they actually saw Jason Terry, who was sort of the Mavs number 2, waiting in line at the bar, right? And so then when they're in the bar, it's like 30 minutes pass, and Jason Terry has like waited in line long enough for him to get into the bar, right? This is the guy with an NBA Finals ring on his finger, right? The one that they lost, and he goes up to them and he extends his hand to like shake their hand, and Dwayne Wade was like, I did not want to shake that man's hand at that moment. I was having none of that. There's like, but you know, he's like, he paid his respect or whatever. He was just impressed with like, you know, like the balls that Jason Terry had. The fact that like, I'm sure Jason Terry saw that like these guys were let into the door like immediately, whereas Jason Terry had to wait like half an hour to get in.
The fact that they didn't help him out either. The fact that they weren't like, oh, yo, he's also an NBA player. Like they just let him wait.
Dude, I mean, at the time, it was definitely a little testy between, you know, I mean, just the Mavs and the Heat. It's, you know, there's emotions going around. So it's like, you know, people were they were, I'm sure, upset they lost the finals. And so then, yeah, like, I don't know, Dwayne Wade goes on to say that like that whole experience sort of humbled them, and, you know, set them up for the next 2 championships that they won. And, you know, I don't think LeBron really has like, yeah, I mean, I feel like Kevin sort of highlighted the mental fortitude that he had throughout the 2016 NBA Finals, and just like generally as a player, as he like leads his team. I don't think he has like the level of mental fortitude that we see today without the trauma of the 2011 NBA Finals caused by yours truly. So,
Dude, like that's wild.
So just like as far as like sports stories goes, like this is my favorite. It's really just personally resonant with me. Yeah, Dirk Nowitzki, the greatest of all time.
Yeah, LeBron looked like a science experiment too while he was on the Heat. Like the man was freakishly jacked.
Yeah, that was definitely his athletic prime. And
Nowitzki was like exiting his prime, right? Like
he was 33 or 32 in his in the NBA Finals, in the 2011 NBA Finals.
Damn.
So yeah, his prime was definitely 2006, 2007, as like he was actually the best player in the NBA, and didn't get it done. And so took a little bit of retooling, but then he led his team in 2011.
Brave of you to do this, to bring this view out when Frank's not here.
Well, I mean, listen, I was gonna bring this up anyway. I mean,
no, bro, I don't know. You wouldn't have said Michael Jordan if Frank was here.
What? I don't know. I mean, I don't know. It's Michael Jordan isn't as personally important to me. I feel like I just like, as far as like skin in the game, I didn't watch the guy. I don't really care about the conversation that much. I don't know.
Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, this conversation is not about objective statements, right? It's a lot about personal admiration. So, you know, that's perfectly fair.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Frank has this idea that like Osmond's a Michael Jordan super fan. Like Osmond's like, yeah, I don't really care about Michael Jordan very much.
I'm guessing Frank brings up the topic of LeBron v. Jordan, and Ozzy takes Jordan's side in these.
Yeah, I feel like Frank feels really strongly about it. I don't know. I feel like a lot of times with these kinds of things, I like to play devil's advocate, and like I think the argument for Michael Jordan being the greatest basketball player of all time is really good. I mean, it's a very clear argument that I feel like Frank just doesn't really appreciate or really tries to like internalize or understand. So I don't know. I try to play devil's advocate, and
I think to him, LeBron is to him what Dirk is to you, right? Like there's not like it's a very heart thing. It's emotional, right? It's not about like the objectivity.
Yeah. But see, I'm never gonna argue that like Dirk is the greatest basketball player of all time, because that's just, I don't know. There's no way to argue that. But top 10, I think there is an argument. Anyway, yeah. That's the story of me and Dirk Nowitzki.
Osmond's first story.
Yeah. So Melis, you got a favorite athlete?
Man's been going down Wikipedia's list of athletes. He's like, he just walked into a test he didn't study for. He's like,
How about just someone you find admirable, preferably someone with an athletic kind of
Someone, just someone who's vaguely athletic.
Yeah, someone tangentially related to
Oh.
sports.
No,
Or
I
you
admire Barack Obama.
Plays basketball.
Yo, you guys see that?
I mean,
You guys see that shot he did? And then he did a shot for Biden's campaign, and then he walked off. He was like, "That's what I do." And then Biden just walks off awkwardly, like he'd never been on a basketball court in his life.
I don't know. I guess one person that came to mind, I wouldn't call them like my favorite athlete or the greatest or anything, but I'm gonna talk about a Melee player who went by the name of Triple R.
All right. I don't even know this guy. So.
Yeah, that's he's not very well known. I did used to watch a lot of his videos because and he was I guess partially responsible for me playing when I went through that Kirby phase of playing Kirby a lot in Melee. Because I don't know if it started because I saw him first. No, I'm pretty sure it's because I started to play Kirby first, because Kirby's the underrated character in Melee, and I like an underdog story, so I chose the underdog character. And then I was like, all right, let me find a good Smash player who plays Kirby, and Triple R is, I think, undebatably the best Kirby Melee player like in the world. At least that's what it said on Wikipedia. I don't know. He was probably the Smash player that I watched the most. If you saw me working at Fondy, I was probably watching Triple R videos when I was working. I don't know, I would take like whatever I saw in the videos, try to apply it. I didn't want to be one of those Kirby players that like sat on the side and just held the B button that,
Hey, stop calling me out, bro.
Yeah.
Calm down. Can you calm down? That's the only way to fix it. You suck someone off, you suck someone up, and then you jump off the edge, and that's all you do.
Nah,
That's
I was
it.
gonna be one of those players, especially because that didn't usually always work. But I don't know, it was just really cool watching him like basically school a bunch of chumps that played, like they would play Fox or Falco or all the top tiered characters, and he just like completely destroyed them. Obviously, like, I mean, he never made it that big. I mean, when you get to like the really good Smash players who played Fox or Falco, I mean, he just lost against them,
Mhm.
I mean, it's an undeniable fact that, Kirby's like the worst or the second worst character in the game, but it was admirable that it was admirable that he chose that player regardless, and still held his ground against even people that chose those much better characters. And I'd watch times when he'd like 3-stock people that played Fox or Falco, and it was lit.
Yeah, can you imagine, like, for Justin's NASCAR Formula One example, like a driver who's at the same talent level as all these other, and he's like, I'm gonna drive the slower car. Like, why? Because I can. He was like, it's pink and I like it.
Yeah. Definitely, I appreciate the underdog story. That is, I don't know. I think that's one of the great things about sports. And I one of the more alluring things about sports when there's a good underdog story. Yeah, I definitely.
feel like
That's also
I
why I
don't
love the anime Haikyuu, huge underdog story. If none of you have watched it, I highly recommend.
Doesn't the dude have like a 50-inch vertical? Like,
I don't remember what it is, but yeah, he's like 5'4" or 5'5", and he jumps taller than like
Yeah,
most
like,
6-foot people. Is crazy.
does that not make you not really an underdog when you have like multiple standard deviations higher of a vertical than other people?
Yeah, but he worked on it though. It wasn't something he was like naturally born with.
Oh, okay.
I think
Yeah,
they're
that's
just
like
giving people a false sense of hope.
Right. They're like, oh, look at this tiny
50-inch
idiot.
vertical, like that's taller
I
than
don't remember
some
if that's what it
people.
was, but
No,
it
I
was
remember
definitely
watching
very
like the first few
impressive.
episodes. I was like, this guy could literally jump over his own height.
Yeah.
It's like Nate Robinson, but in basketball, not boxing.
Yeah, that was my Triple R, Super Smash Bros. Melee.
Does he play?
Apparently, I also looked it up. He continued to play Kirby in all the other following Super Smash Bros. Games, Brawl,
Okay. But Kirby's better in the
Smash
other games,
4.
right?
Yeah, and also since I mean with the newer games they can update characters,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
guess
yeah,
stats, and they
Balance
kind
it.
of fix the rankings to try to
Yeah.
make it more balanced.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. I mean, I find that a pretty, like, to your point about him continuing to play Kirby at a high level in future games, like, I think sport longevity is also a really interesting conversation in general. Like, in the sense that, like, I don't know, like, how long did Tiger play professionally? How long is he playing?
He started in like 1998,
90s.
something like that.
Yeah, and you said he had a
97,
10-year run. Like a 10-year run sounds incredible for the vast majority of like pro sports, but I guess in the context of golf, it's like
And I mean, in
Okay.
general, golf, like, it's a longevity thing. So yeah, as far as he absolutely has the greatest peak in golf by far,
Yeah.
absolutely by far. Like, because
Yeah.
he actually won like 4 straight majors. Like, nobody has ever even come close to winning like 4. Like, there's like the 4 big ones are the U.S. Open, the Masters, the British Open, and the PGA Championship. And he won not the 4 in the same year, but he won like the last 2 of a previous year, and then the first 2 in the next year. So like,
that's wild.
yeah, he's like, his peak is far and away like the greatest in golf ever. Just like, it was incredible for sure. But in general, golfers have really good longevity, which doesn't seem like Tiger's gonna have.
Oh, also, don't know if y'all know, but there will be a Space Jam 2. LeBron James.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
2021.
Yeah.
There's I think
Let's
that's
see
an
who's
interesting-
gonna have the better movie, Jordan or LeBron.
Look, for a lot of people, it's never gonna live up to the Jordan movie, right? No matter how good it is.
Yeah, there's that nostalgia factor.
And for other people, it's gonna be better than the Jordan movie before it even comes out. So yeah, like, it's interesting. It sounds like Smash players have pretty good longevity just because of the consistency of their game. But like League players have horrible longevity. Like, the people retire, we were like, oh, this guy's been in the scene forever. He retires at like 21. Like, the game, it's interesting because it's like a pro video game. You're like, oh, how would that fuck people up so badly? But yeah, I think the differences between it and Smash make people like not last as long.
Well, Smash doesn't have a team element. I think the team element causes a lot of consternation.
Well, even CSGO, right? Like, isn't CSGO a team game? And I think their pros tend to last like a pretty long time as well. I think most of the explanation I've heard is that it's the meta changes, and that like the fact that you constantly have to relearn the game in a sense is a huge source of burnout. Because you're competing against younger players who have been only playing in this meta, right? And you're like having to adapt, and you're kind of a dinosaur.
Oh, it's like if they kept changing the height of the basketball hoop. It's like
yeah. All of a sudden, it's like the easiest thing to do is to shoot if you're like 5'8", and the next season there's like 3 hoops, and you have to backflip before you get into one of them.
Do you follow professional league, Alan?
More late, like a few years ago. I took a gap, and then like a little bit more lately because of the pandemic.
So correlates with the amount of free time you have.
More like I guess. I don't know. I've been
Just
following more MMA lately in the last few years.
Hmm.
But it sucks because there's no one to talk to about that. No one watches it. Everyone watches like the normal sports.
yeah.
Like, I've noticed in my job, everyone talks about football and basketball, especially at the college level, and I'm like, man, if I want to network in the future, I gotta learn how to talk about it, even if I don't like give a fuck,
Yeah, no, I've noticed that too. Everyone here talks about baseball and hockey. Like, I don't know shit about baseball or hockey.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least hockey seems like it's fun to watch. Baseball, why do people follow baseball? Like,
I think baseball is really interesting. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
I
of
like
course
baseball.
you do. You like NASCAR where they drive in circles for hours.
I explicitly said Formula One. I've never watched NASCAR in my life.
Yeah, bro, of course you find baseball interesting. It's probably the most interesting of those 3.
I actually, I enjoy watching baseball. It's like the technical aspect, right? It's very precise. I think
How many of y'all have like been to actual sporting events? Because I think I can only I think I've only been to like one, I guess, and not college level. I'm talking like National League
Yeah.
level. I think I've only been to one like one basketball game. That was sometime during Rice.
I've been to 3 of the 4 professional leagues. I'm just missing hockey.
I feel like hockey's a really fun one in person. It's just my
Yeah.
impression.
Dude, the fact that fighting's a part of the sport in hockey makes me like, like they have dudes whose entire job is to like beat down on other people. That's insane. They're like beaters from Quidditch.
And it looks like
Yeah,
I don't know
I
if this
feel
is
like-
true in actual life, but like anytime I've seen like hockey on TV, it looks like I don't know, the stands aren't as big, so like you're closer to like the
I think that's
what do
true.
they call it, the rink.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like the players will be like shoved up against the wall, and then it's like
Yeah.
the crowd is literally feet away behind the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched a bit because St. Louis, the Blues here won when I moved here, right, last year.
Oh
Um,
shit.
And that was crazy to be in town for because like they had a 50-year drought. They never won the Stanley Cup. And then that year they won. And not only did they win, they were literally last in the NHL in January of 2019. And then a few months later, they worked their way up to the championships and won the Stanley Cup for the first time. So that's a great comeback story.
All right, guys. I think we've all gotten a chance to answer the question, though, right? Greatest athletes of all
Yeah.
time. We got Ali, Tiger Woods, Triple R, LeBron James, and Dirk Nowitzki. Huh?
No one said Michael Phelps.
I was thinking about Michael Phelps.
I thought
Yeah, I think
about him,
Michael
then it
Phelps
was
makes a
like,
lot of
I
sense.
don't resonate with swimming. Like, it's amazing,
That's the problem.
but like, it
Yeah.
doesn't mean anything to me.
Yeah,
No,
I mean,
we only
I
see him
swam.
once every 4 years. So.
Look, I swam, and it's still like, how could I don't know. I don't know if you could make an argument for him over like Wayne Gretzky or like Michael Jordan or LeBron James. You know,
Yeah.
because he doesn't really transcend the sport. Like, what has he done outside sport? He smoked weed, I guess. Right?
Wait,
I mean, I feel
in
like
2008, it was so.
I mean,
hyped,
I'll
too.
tell you, I couldn't.
Yeah,
I
that was
don't
a big
know
deal.
any other swimmer, but that's a name that I'm familiar with. So
Yeah.
I feel like you can make a case for him being a.
Katie
Yeah,
Ledecky
definitely.
is going to be.
I mean, I don't
Michael
follow
Phelps.
sports at all, but I've heard the name. You know.
Any other honorable mentions? That's a good one. I forgot to. He should be mentioned, at least for like our generation. At least when I was watching the 2008 Olympics, like when he
Yes,
won
he
that
was.
relay, like
Yeah.
it was just. Or yeah, I don't know. I was like off my couch. I was like, oh my god, go go go!
I think my favorite thing
That's
about
what
swimming is
I'm
they'll
trying
put the line on the
College.
screen and you can see him ahead of it. Crazy shit.
Maybe Usain Bolt also. Maybe we should.
Yeah, but you seem like I think by the nature of track, you can't have as diverse a set of races, right?
He's
Yeah.
also kind of
Like-
cocky.
But like he just like
But what's wrong
destroyed
with
the world
cocky?
records,
He
right?
deserves
Like,
It's cocky in like an unendearing way. He's like, oh, I'm the best.
Hey, well, but
no
if
one
he
wants
is,
to
he's
hear
just stating
that.
facts,
You
right?
think it's unendearing? I think he's more charismatic than Phelps.
True.
is. I think he's way more charismatic.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Maybe I just read his quotes out of context or something. Any baseball players? Okay.
What's he gonna do next? Oh, he's gonna turn left. Oh, he's
I-
turning left.
So I actually I followed the Texas Rangers maybe like late 2000s, maybe during like the Mavs sort of off period, and I really liked Josh Hamilton's story. I don't know if anybody knows him, but like he's like a slugger, heavy hitter kind of guy. He had a really bad drug problem, and then like cleaned up and came back and dominated the sport. So yeah, it was just
NFL. I feel like we're missing some big NFL
Oh, yeah,
names, but no
Tom
one
Brady,
gives a shit
right?
about football.
yeah. Tom Brady ought to be mentioned, huh? If J. Kim was online, then maybe he would mention him.
Yeah. Well, I think for the most famous person of a sport who's not even close to being a GOAT is Conor McGregor. Because I feel like when people think UFC, the only name they can probably mention is Conor McGregor. And the dude's probably not even the top 5 in his own weight class right now, but he's easily the most famous across the entire sport. Right?
Mhm.
Like,
Is
is
that
there
because
anyone?
his name is easy to remember?
Well, I think
He's
it's
a
like,
meme.
it's just
He's a meme and not
brand.
really an athlete. So let's.
So wait, did you guys really not have anything to say about the NFL? I don't know. I feel like That's America's sport, right? That's the
You
biggest
had
sport in
your
this
chance,
country.
Justin, and you chose race cars. Okay.
I did.
Okay. So
I'm just like,
keep your
I'm
peace.
surprised through the five. Maybe we didn't need Jake in here. I'm surprised through the five of us, we did not talk about the
we know.
biggest
I mean,
sport in
really,
this
we
country.
needed Uche. I feel like Uche loves.
Yeah, that's
Uche
why,
and
that's why I was
Jake love
thinking.
football
Yeah.
so much that like I think they absolutely would have been able to round out the conversation in that way. But it's also been like 2 months since this topic was introduced, and so it's good that we finished it.
2 months. Pretty sure I mentioned this shit in like August, but it's fine.
It's okay. Alan's not salty.
No, I'm
All
not
right.
salty.
Good episode, guys.